You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error on your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit creditkarma.com or download the app now. That's Credit Karma, KARMA.com. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. I am coming at you live from H-Town, Houston, Texas, site of Game 5 tonight for the Western Conference Finals. Houston Rockets host the Golden State Warriors. The series is even at 2-2. Obviously, it's an incredibly important game. If Houston wins this game, that means worst case scenario is they force a Game 7 on their home court at the Toyota Center, which is what they played for all season long. You're the Golden State Warriors. You win tonight. You go back to the Oracle for Game 6 with a chance to make amends for Game 4. Obviously, that's on a lot of people's minds. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers officially being on the brink of elimination after losing to the Boston Celtics last night at TD Bank Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, a legitimate question can be asked. Do you even want to see them in the finals after the way you've seen them perform in 3 outings on the road in Boston in this Eastern Conference Finals series? We'll get into all of that as the show progresses, make no mistake about it, but it's important that I veer left or right, whatever way you want to term it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a sports show. And obviously, we will be talking about sports. And when you think about the NFL, the National Football League, and this protest issue, even though it transcends the world of sports, it's still a sports issue because we're talking about the National Football League. Let me be the first to say that this is a subject that makes folks at ESPN very, very nervous. Executives in any line of work get nervous because if something could potentially affect the bottom line, they do get nervous. That's why the NFL and the owners implemented these new rules. There's a lot of reasons for people to be nervous. This is not the day that I'm going to provide comfort. See, we're going to talk about this and we're going to have a real discussion over the next 2 hours. We're going to insert things about the Eastern and the Western Conference Finals, and the lines are certainly open to talk about these things. But Stephen A. Smith and the Stephen A. Smith Show does not run from issues. We're not running from issues. We're not running from this subject. The National Football League made news yesterday by instituting new rules that calls for eradicating kneeling during the national anthem. If you are a player, a coach, or any kind of team personnel, and you come out of your locker room while the national anthem is being played, you will stand. You will not kneel. And if you choose to kneel anyway, if you choose to imitate Colin Kaepernick, you will be fined. Now, if you don't want to be fined, either don't kneel or you do have the choice of staying inside the locker room until the national anthem is played, and then after that, you can come out. But as long as you're out on that field while the national anthem is being played, you will not kneel. There will be no cameras witnessing players or team personnel or league personnel and officials kneeling during the national anthem. And because of that, people have had a lot to say about this. Players have spoken out against it because they are upset because, according to what I'm hearing, the commissioner and at least one of the owners, John Mara for the Giants, lied to DeMaurice Smith of the Players Association, if indeed you believe the Players Association, because they were told, A, no policy changes would take place, and B, they would be consulted and it would be something that was discussed, if not negotiated. And that is not what happened. The owners unilaterally made this call. But the word unilateral is arbitrary because guess what? I think it was Chris Johnson or Charles Johnson, whatever his name is, the younger brother of Woody Johnson, the owner for the New York Jets, came out and he said, players who kneel, I'll pay their fine for them. So clearly all the owners are not on the same page and the word unilateral does not apply. The players are in an uproar. Doug Baldwin is quoted as speaking out against this.
To me, this just further punctuates the the tone deafness or the disconnect between the NFL and its players. The NFL just doesn't get it. It's more of a PR move to me than anything. It's not really trying to get to the gist of it. I don't really think they ever did care about the initiatives or the things that the players cared about. It's, again, about their bottom line.
Needless to say, you knew somebody was going to ask the president of the United States about that.
Well, President
Donald Trump was being interviewed on Fox and Friends, and this is what he had to say about the NFL anthem policy, the new policy. Listen to the president.
Well, I think that's good. I don't think people should be staying in locker rooms, but still, I think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. And the NFL owners did the right thing if that's what they've done.
If that is the story, do you feel like you pushed this story forward and you pushed this to a conclusion?
I think the people pushed it forward. This was not me. I brought it out. I think the people pushed it forward. This country is very smart. We have very smart people. And, you know, that's something ideally could have been taken care of when it first started. It would have been a lot easier. But if they did that, they're doing the right thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to state this, and I want to state this emphatically. The NFL is in a world of trouble. It's in a world of trouble. We got to stop playing games. We got to stop playing games and dancing around these issues and start addressing it with the fervor it deserves. And oh, by the way, that's ESPN too. Stop running. Stop hiding. NFL Network, Fox, I don't give a damn who you are, CBS, I don't care who you are. Stop running. Enough's enough. Let's start calling this for what it is. Not just sitting up there and putting on our white hats talking about the way it should be. Let's start talking about the way that it is. Issue number one. Surprise, surprise. NFL don't give a damn about your issues. Meaning the NFL owners. With the exception of the of Shad Khan for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's from Pakistan. Every other one of them is white. They're white billionaires. They are not getting pulled over by police. There isn't racial inequality and social injustice when it comes to a white billionaire. They do not relate. Period. You know what point number two is about point number one? How can you fault them? If you don't know, you don't know. If you can't relate, you can't relate. If that's not your experience, it's not your experience. And if your priority is the bottom line, surprise, surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting text messages with people talking to me about the preamble of the Constitution. And folks bringing up the Constitution and just talking about things along those lines. Ladies and gentlemen, those owners don't care about that. It's a private industry. It is what it is. Everybody wants to bring up free speech and First Amendment. And how free speech is associated with establishing justice and ensuring domestic tranquility as laid out in the preamble of the Constitution. Do you know a billionaire owner in the world of sports that cares about that? They care about their bottom line. I had sources inform me that when Jerry Jones spoke to his team, when this whole anthem controversy was going down last season, he called everybody in there and he said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a business meeting. At which time he highlighted the bottom line. And how the bottom line was being compromised. And how dare you as a player think for 1 second that you're going to compromise our bottom line while making sure yours is straight. If you compromise our bottom line, we're going to compromise yours. That's what Jerry Jones told them. And ladies and gentlemen, that's essentially what the owners are saying to these players right now. Is there a better solution? Of course there's a better solution. Can they entertain it? Of course they can't. You know why they can't entertain a better solution than the one they have now presented to us? Ladies and gentlemen, it's because the National Football League engaged in paid patriotism without having a hard and fast policy that dated back to years ago that called and mandated for you to stand for the national anthem. Caught beneath all of this rhetoric, all of this noise, all of this stuff is the fact that Colin Kaepernick never violated bylaws of the National Football League. So the National Football League dropped the ball by engaging in paid patriotism, being paid by the Department of Defense millions upon millions of dollars to advertise and market the United States military, to assist in recruiting, to elevate its profile, to make it more attractive to the American citizen, to provoke patriotism. And by doing that and getting paid for it, how do you then turn around and implement a policy calling for it when you didn't have the policy on the books in the first place? The MLB, NBA, both also receiving money from the Department of Defense, to my knowledge, had hard and fast policies in place that called for you to stand for the national anthem. The NFL strongly suggested you should, but didn't mandate it. So they dropped the ball. So you can't be flaming hypocrites and then turn around and mandate something now that this controversy has swirled when you should have done it years ago and you did it. So, of course, the NFL is wrong. Of course, the NFL doesn't look good in all of this. Of course, they can't turn around and do what actually is happening in college football with programs like Notre Dame and others. So says Terrence Moore in his column on CNN today, who's a longtime columnist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, when he talked about Notre Dame and other institutions that stayed in their locker room until the national anthem was played, and then they would come out. That's what the NFL should have done from day one. Either that or have a hard and fast policy mandating that you stand for the national anthem, but they didn't do it. So we know why they're compromised, and we know why they're trying to figure out ways to alleviate these concerns, and we understand why they're sort of stuck in the mud. Because they compromised themselves for the almighty dollar. Surprise, surprise. But having said all of that, what in the hell makes y'all think that the players are completely right about this? They are not. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a proud black man. I love my people. I don't speak for everybody. Hell, I don't know if I speak for most. I just know that when I speak, I'm heard. And I say all of that to say to you is that as a black man who has experienced racial inequality and oppression and racism, who is all too familiar with brutality on the part of some police officers, while Colin Kaepernick had every right to protest, and the issues that he was protesting were definitely profound and real, I'm here to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. As it pertains to the NFL is wrong in how they're choosing to handle it, but they are not wrong in wanting to handle it. This is not the NFL's problem. I understand that's not popular to say. Damn it, I'm saying it. It's not the NFL's problem. Why? Because the NFL wasn't the target of Colin Kaepernick's ire, or Eric Reed for that matter, or Chris Long, or Malcolm Jenkins, or anybody else. They were not targeting the NFL. They were talking about using the NFL platform and the platform they have as NFL players to bring attention to a bigger problem that ails our society. The NFL is perfectly within its right as a private enterprise, a private entity who is not the target of that ire to say, hold up, y'all, you are affecting our bottom line. What's up with this? And oh, by the way, you're doing so, affecting our bottom line, but you don't want your bottom line compromised. They are not wrong for taking that position. Enough's enough. Enough's enough. The president was wrong to hijack the issue and turn it into something that it wasn't, about patriotism. But we understand the agenda behind it. He was out to get NFL owners. And his constituency bought its hook, line, and sinker. Okay, fine. But here's the bottom line. He pulled it off. He pulled it off. He successfully went about the business of hijacking the issue. And because he hijacked the issue, it has now served as a thorn in the side of the National Football League's bottom line. And what the players are sitting here doing now is trying to turn problems that are very real, that absolutely ail our society, that we could certainly use the assistance of the National Football League and the billionaire owners who have purview over that league. While we can certainly use their assistance, you now have players turning their ire in the direction of owners as if they're the problem. But you still got your hand out for their check. You still want to get paid. That's not the real world, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that and expect not to have ramifications and repercussions. If DeMaurice Smith indeed was lied to by Roger Goodell and John Mara, he has every right to be furious. If the players want to sit there and say, we weren't consulted, this is something we should have been consulted by, they have every right to be upset. But their ire, as it pertains to any sort of confrontation with the owners, doesn't make them right. They're not more right than the owners in this particular issue because the owners were never the target. And if the owners were never the target and they were not the ones you were protesting against, why should they stand idly by and allow you to affect their bottom line without your bottom line being affected? Everybody want to talk. Nobody wants to give me an answer to that question. If the players were protesting against the owners, there's nothing to talk about. They were not. So if they were not protesting the owners, why do you have a problem with the owners saying, wait a minute, then why should our bottom line be affected? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if the players feel so adamantly about it and they're so dogged in their commitment against the owners, why stop at taking a knee? Why don't you take a Sunday off? Why don't you refuse to play? You want to talk about real protest? Real impact? Didn't you show up on Sunday to play? At any moment in time, did you hear any of these players say, we don't give a damn about the check? This issue is so important to us. Damn the check. Nobody did that. Nobody's thinking about doing it. Nobody would dare do it. So let's stop playing games. I am live in Houston, Texas. Very, very interested in talking about these Western Conference Finals. But as a black man, I am not going to sit up here and ignore this issue and run from it. Nor am I going to just jump on the saddle and come to the defense of a group of players I love dearly and have profound respect for. And I appreciate to the nth degree for their conscientious behavior, what they mean to our society, and what they're trying to address. But you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan of action. And it has to be a purpose. And the purpose can't be that vague. And more importantly than anything else, you got to be cognizant of the fact that we went from talking about social injustice, racial inequality, brutality on the part of some police officers, to the NFL against the players. Come on, y'all. That ain't what this is about. Roger Goodell and the NFL need to get their act together and stop being a bunch of hypocrites. You can't engage in paid patriotism and then come up with this kind of stuff. Can't do it. But in the same breath, let's also understand the NFL is not who the players have a problem with. At least as it pertains to the protest. Now you might have an issue if you're Colin Kaepernick or Eric Reed because you can't find a job. And clearly, collusion or no collusion, there's a concerted effort to keep you out of the league because of the damage you did to the league. We get that. But the real problem is what's going on in society. It's not about what's going on in the NFL. And if we're going to move forward with this discussion, can we simply grow up and stop acting all emotional all the damn time and recognize the fact that we are talking big business? And if you really want to talk about sacrifice, then compromise your check the way Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed did. Then come talk to us. Otherwise, fall back. The NFL was not the problem. Society was, is, and probably always will be. The NFL was supposed to be a conduit towards a path that alleviates our concerns from such things, if only for 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon. Let's remember that and act accordingly. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. I find it unacceptable and quite frankly ludicrous that athletes and active folks are out there still drinking outdated sports drinks. Wake up, people. It's time for you to ditch that stuff and switch to Body Armor sports drink. I'm talking natural flavors and sweetness. It's also got potassium-packed electrolytes and more vitamins, providing superior hydration for today's athlete. Guys like James Harden, Mike Trout, Dustin Johnson, just to name a few. So switch to Body Armor sports drink today. You can thank me later.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people!
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A!
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
Washing my nose, oh yeah.
I'm a shower curtain, and I do one thing. Keep water from leaking everywhere. So you see why I feel useless compared to Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could Geico save you money, but they've been around for over 75 years. And they give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or on the Geico app. And they've got a 97% customer satisfaction rating. They do all this while I have to listen to this chucklehead. Oh, good, he stopped.
Washing my toes!
Oh, great, an encore.
Geico. Expect great savings in all